There were no clear lines between authentication and authorization. So the same data were used by the issuer to decide whether to authenticate and to essentially authorize the transaction. It wasn't a decoupled process. This essentially left merchant very much at the mercy of the issuer. Then came 3D-Secure. 3DS stands for 3D Secure. It's a framework that was initially launched in the early 2000s by the scheme Visa and MasterCard. It created a structured framework between the merchant, the card scheme, and the issuer. Suddenly, the cardholder could then be asked to verify themselves in real time through three very distinct pillars under the strong customer authentication, which is also known as SCA. Those three pillars reflect what the cardholder is, what they have, or what they own. So the transaction could be authenticated through a phone, a device, which is an item that they own, through their biometrics or their retina, which is something that is inherently representing them, or through something they know, their PIN, their password, a memorable word. How they approach this in terms of the exemption, the biometrics, and the actually underlying type of framework authenticated really impact the fraud rate, the conversion, but also the customer user experience. Something really important to note about the authentication framework 3DS, it's that it introduced a key concept, which is the liability shift. That shift wasn't just about security. It really changed the liability. With 3DS, when a transaction is authenticated successfully, the issuer takes the hit for fraud, not the merchant. That is really important and became a game changer for the industry, specifically with the rising fraud exposure in e-commerce. Over time, the protocols have evolved from requesting static passwords to becoming more intelligent, risk-based to allow invisible processing of the authentication framework without necessarily the user being aware. The core of those ideas remain, essentially validating that it is the legitimate customer, but making it invisible or by enforcing that authentication through a different framework, new concepts were essentially emerging. This essentially wraps up the introduction into what authentication really is. In the next video, we're going to look a little bit deeper in the context of card, exploring the 3DS framework that I mentioned. Stay in touch, don't miss the next shot. See you soon.